All right, everybody, Kimberly here, and I've got two unique trick-taking games, both designed by Wolfgang Kramer. One is co-designed with Michael Kiesling, so I'm going to start with that one. This is called Jalapeno, and these games are perfect for big game nights. And that's one really interesting thing about this is these trick-taking games, Jalapeno goes from 3 to 9 players, and then Vampire Queen, which is my second game, plays 3 to 12 players. So big game nights, fun trick-taking possibilities. Let's look at Jalapeno. I have this set up for 3 players, and the really great thing about this game is inside of the box are all the cards, and they have a number at the bottom that essentially tell you, does this belong in a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 player game? No, then they don't belong in this one. If it's an 8 or 9 player game, you're going to start to see the numbers go 10 to 18 higher than what I've got set up for our game. So the game is perfectly scaled for the amount of players, and you add the cards that you need, shuffle them together, and you're going to deal out those cards to players. In this case, we got 12 cards to every player. You look through your deck, and if you find any jalapenos, which are number 1s, you will place them face up in front of you. They are in your hand, but they're visible. So they're in your playing area, essentially. I'm going to start here in the center, and all I'm going to do, classic trick-taking rules, I will play a card, and that is going to be the lead color. And players have to follow the lead color with either a card from their hand or a jalapeno from the table. And if they have none that match, they can play any other card, but that card that does not match the lead suit cannot win the hand. Only if you match the lead suit and have the highest value. In this game, we've got 9 is our highest value, and we have 4 different suits. So they simply play a card from their hand. Let's say I'm playing that 9. Then the next player in turn order looks at their hand. They play, let's say they slip in their 3. And then I'm going to put this down here. This is where the game gets really interesting. Do you want to hold on to your jalapeno, which is not good? It's going to be minus 2 points at the end of the game if you still have it in front of you. Or do you want to slough off some of these other cards? Let's say this player wants to put their 2 out, knowing that the only other dark blue card they have is their jalapeno. So they'll be forced to play it, but then they won't necessarily have any chance to play it any other time. It's a good opportunity, I think, to not get rid of it too soon. So let's play. Okay, so this is done. We now resolve the hand, and this just essentially goes out. So this is just done until we shuffle the cards up again, and since this player won, they will get to start the next trick. Let's say they put their jalapeno out in the center. They are essentially saying, I'm not going to play a card from my hand, I want to play light blue. Forced to play light blue. Let's take a look at this. Only 1 card. Oh, there's the other card. I was like, only 1 card. There's a 2 and there's a 9. This player certainly doesn't want to take this card into their hand because it's -2. It also kind of acts as this ticking time bomb. This player can win it by taking the, with a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 7. They'll win it with the 3. So then they're simply going to take these cards. They're going to put them out just like before. But if it's a jalapeno, it goes into your player area face up. Players will just continue playing this kind of hot potato with the jalapenos. They always stay in play. And you will play down until one player doesn't have any cards in their hand. When that happens, that's the last round. And then you will count your jalapenos in front of you as -2 points. And any remaining cards in your hand that match a jalapeno in front of you are -1. And you will play several rounds, averaging your score together. Every time that a player has the lowest score going into the next round, meaning every time a player has the worst score going into the next round, which means the highest amount of points, which are negative, they will begin the next round where you shuffle all the cards together again, deal out 12, and then flip over those face-up jalapeno cards. So, what makes this game interesting and unique is the jalapenos. This is fascinating because on first play, it seems like you want to get rid of them as fast as possible. But that means that other players are then going to have the chance to get rid of them back to you. And there could be a forced play towards the end of the game where you're not able to get rid of your jalapeno. The other thing is that when you play a jalapeno from your table, you're not playing a card from your hand, getting rid of the cards from your hand, which could be possibly negative points depending on if they match the jalapeno card that's on the table in front of you. Now, if the jalapeno is in front of someone else, they get negative points for those, and then they look at their hand to see if they match those cards. So you won't get negative points unless it's for your jalapeno, and then of course the matching suit from hand cards left in your hand still. And if you were the one that went out and you had no cards left in your hand, of course no cards match the jalapeno that might possibly be sitting in front of you. So there's just some really nice, clever play here. And from 3 to 9 players, you keep adding more and more cards of higher and higher value, all the way to 18. This game gets really, really interesting. So for that kind of larger trick-taking game, which I don't see too many, I think usually trick-taking games max out at about 5, this game really has a lot to offer players. And now let's take a look at what Vampire Queen offers even more players. In Vampire Queen, players are trying to get rid of the cards in their hand, and hopefully if they have in front of them the Vampire Slayers, pass those off to other players because anything left in your space will be negative points. Now they will be dealt 13 cards in a 3 to 8 player game, and in this example I've got 5 players set up here, but again this does scale all the way to 12, which could be a massive, massive game. So there are 108 cards in the deck, and that means that there are 13 different types of vampire cards, of which there are 8 copies of. Then there are going to be 4 wild cards, which are vampire queens, and then you've got your 2 vampire hunters, which are value 15 and 20. So these are going to be all of those different vampire cards, and then these are going to be your vampire queens, and then your vampire slayers. Now your queens and your slayers act a little differently, and on your turn, what you're going to do is simply lead off the round by playing any single vampire card, multiple vampire cards of the same value, or a single vampire slayer card. And these stay out in front of you. So the player that has the 20 in front of them will start the game. So let's have them play a card or cards out. It looks like they've got a couple of these value 13s. And so let's have them play those first. Let's see here. So we're going to have them play out 2 13s. Now what that means is the next player in turn order must play the same number of cards, which is 2, and they have to be higher than 13. So let's see if they can do it. Right now, only 2 14s would do it, and it looks like they don't have it. So they're going to pass here. It looks like we're going to pass, and then we're going to pass here most likely. There's one of those vampire queens. There's another one. So this might be a chance to play 2 14s, but I will tell you right now, playing a vampire queen with another card makes it that value of card. So they could be pretty versatile to hang on to. Now here's the cool thing. If you can play, you don't have to play. You can keep it a secret. So now we're going to look at this player's hand and say, I don't know. Nope, can't play. So then they're going to say, nope. So these cards are won by this player, and instead of having negative points in their hand at the end of the game, they just simply get to discard those, and then they get to start off the next round of play. Let's say they want to play their vampire hunter. They simply put their vampire hunter here inside the play area. And when they play it like this, it's going to be essentially a 0. It's not worth 20. The only thing to keep in mind is that if this card is in front of you at the end of the game, you get 20 points, and points are bad. You don't want to have those points. It never ever counts as a 20 because you can't play a vampire hunter in the game normally. You can only lead with a vampire hunter. So this player is going to play that, and every single player must play one card. And here, it doesn't have to be higher than the previously played card. It just must be one single card, and the highest will take that card and put it in front of them. So someone might say, I don't want to take that. That to me is not worth it. So they play their 1 on it. Then this player says, well, the next lowest card I have is a 2, but I've got 2 2s, which might be valuable. Oh, there's my 1. Great, I'll play a 1 as well. And then we're going to have this player go, and they're going to look at it and say, I don't have a 1. I'm probably going to win it. Maybe to get rid of a high card, I might play this single 11. That player's pretty much saying, I think I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that hand. Here, this player can kind of slough off, but they have a 13, they have a 10, they have a 12. Let's have them sneak in. Oh gosh, the 12 would win it. And the 12 and the 13. Oh man. Okay, well let's just have them instead. Let's play a single 5. They're going to play a 5 instead. So that means that this person played the highest number card, because remember this is a 0. And then they're going to take these cards and this card, and they're going to put everything back into their hand. So when you play that card, you are essentially saying, I'm taking all of the cards that are out there in addition to this, which you think is not a good thing. But now they get to lead, and they get to play these cards. What do they want to lead with now? They have a ton of cards. They have a lot of options available to them. Their hand is massively full. So let's say they want to lead and they want to play, let's have them play, I don't know if anyone has 4 of a kind, but let's do, we can do it like this. Let's have them say, I want to play 4 ones. Let's see if anyone can match 4 of a higher value. Can they match 4 of a higher value? Oh, they had those 3s. If they'd been able to play 3 3s, or they had a queen that came with it, they could do it, but they can't. And then we come around here and we do the same thing, can't do it, and then can't do it, can't do it. So maybe, yeah, I think that has, we have the 9s, and we have the 6s, and we got the 8s, and we got the 12s, and we got the 7s. This person has a lot of doubles. And then we come here and check, and it looks like, yep, just the 2. So that was good. They were able to take this, and then they discard all of that, and they get to lead again. So now they get to pick, and they're going to go again. Let's play these 3 5s. They want to play these 3 5s. So it's not bad to take those cards and to really add a bunch to your hand. This player had their 3 2s, or 3 3s, but they weren't able to get more. So again, we keep playing like this until one player has discarded all the cards from their hand. At the end of a round, the way you score is simply by adding up the value of cards still left in your hand, each individual card, in addition to any vampire hunters that are in front of you. Those are all negative penalty points, and then you will play again. The recommendation is to play several rounds. You can always determine at the beginning of a game how many rounds you want to play. But this game has some fascinating features, one of which is the Vampire Hunter round, where a player has that in front of them and they start the round with the Vampire Hunter, which requires that every player at the table play 1 card, and you don't have to follow the higher value rule that is in play for every other hand. And then that player not only takes the vampire card into their possession, they then take all the other cards into their possession as well. And players are not allowed to lead the exact next round, the round right after they got a vampire hunter, with the same vampire hunter they just collected. So you can't hot potato it back out To the group, you have to essentially give it a little bit of a waiting or cooling down phase or moment. Another cool feature is that players who have a lot of cards are not exactly at a disadvantage. They actually can start playing a lot of multiples of the same card to essentially get them out of their hand and to force other players to pass. Another feature I really like is you can pass. You don't actually have to play if you don't want to. And then the other cool feature is that there are those the vampire queens, and there are 4 of them in the entire deck of 108, which means that getting one of them is unlikely, but when you get them, they become what other card or cards you play in that particular hand, which can give you a little bit of flexibility in what you're playing. So this is fascinating. There are 8 cards of each different number, 1 to 13, 4 of the queens, and then you've got the 2 vampire hunters that are pretty big penalty points if you are stuck at the end of the game with one of them. It can come down to ties, which is fascinating in the vampire hunter phase, and that's just so exciting. Someone plays a 1, someone plays a 1. The third person that plays a 1 wins the trick, even though it still matched all the others. It was just the last one to get played. And that's a very cool rule that does come up more often than you think. This game plays 3 to 12, and I think it's just so fascinating that the lead player can play out 1 or more cards as long as they match in value, and the player next to them and everyone else in the round must play the same number of cards but a higher value to stay in the round to essentially get those cards out of their hand. And the goal here is to get rid of all the cards in your hand in the most strategic way possible so that you have a very low score. You don't want those penalty points. So I say the Vampire Queen and Jalapeno are really interesting, fascinating takes on trick taking that scale all the way up to a whole bunch of players for a fun game night of card games, which I think are super underrated. So great artwork, lovely theme here, and some nice designing by Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling in Jalapeno. All right, everybody, I'll see you later. Bye.